Yeah, the wind really died. This is the first time I feel like settled wind. Hi, Meow Meow.
He finds the craziest ways of laying down and staying cool. Right, Marbles?
Settled weather in a long time, and it feels amazing. I mean, we love sailing, but yeah, this feels nice.
Yeah, so that settled weather felt nice. But as you can see, it kept on picking up progressively after that, the wind, that is. And I had kind of forgotten that I had to be in Georgetown to the immigration office to request an extension of my stay. So decided to leave sooner than later to Georgetown. On the first day, made it to Farmers Cay, and the second day made it to Georgetown. And that first day began with me anchored right in front of the Thunderball Grotto, which is an excellent and super famous diving spot. Now, for many reasons, I am not a big fan of buddy boating, especially mostly because my little boat is different than other boats, and it moves differently. It has an electric engine. I sail it differently than others. I don't know, just never really used to it. I like when I see the weather window, I'm gonna go. Anyway, this person I just met and helped me out bringing some stuff from the United States and said that he would get some footage of me. So that is a perspective I never get to see, a point of view from a different boat creeping in on me. So I agreed to head out and buddy boat with Glenn, and so all that footage that you see from the outside of my boat, which is most of it today, will be from Glenn. There, I just realized there's somebody watching me. I was there setting up the foresail to be out of the way of me pulling up the anchor. There I'm freeing up the halyard of the mainsail so I can pull it up. I usually have a bungee cord pulling it down so it doesn't inadvertently catch any wind while I'm at anchor. Over there I am making sure that leaving the anchorage already reefed, because it is breezy, and little did I know at that point that my autopilot did not work. I normally would pull my mainsail up at anchor, just before pulling up the anchor, but it was kind of breezy that day and not much sea room before I was to hit bottom or land or other boats. There I go, pulling up the anchor, and I do have a windlass, which I installed myself. But I don't really use it. I kind of do enjoy the workout, and then in breezy days like that I kind of wish I had it readily available. But long story short, it is not, and so I just pull it. And hey, I get to say that I can pull my entire home, which weighs about 5,000 pounds, by a single rope. Not many people can say that. It's a great workout. It really is. And look at me in super fast mode. Just sped it up so you don't have to watch me pull up the entire length of road. There's the point of view of my mast cam, which shows nothing, basically, or pretty water. I had the chance to install this camera when the boat was up in New York and the mast was down, but I didn't point it to where I really wanted it to go, so I just need to climb up there one of these days and fix the angle. And the bitter taste of this excellent footage, it's killing me now, is all these lines and just stuff hanging off my boat, off the sides, which I likely would have addressed if my autopilot hadn't died and I actually get a chance to walk around the deck and take a look at all of these things. But that is the precise moment when I realized that my autopilot was not working. And I began assessing whether to stop, cut the trip short, and try to repair it for the gazillionth time, or proceed handcuffed to the tiller, as Glenn would say. Now I begin to pull my mainsail up, pretty annoyed that I can't keep the boat to the wind. I usually don't mess with my lazy jacks. I just normally, because it's such a small boat, I usually just manhandle or woman handle the battens. With the autopilot, it makes so much easier. Just lower the sail just before the batten was to get stuck, and just be able to move the boat into the wind. But that day I just loosened the main sheet and let the boom kind of hang off to the side and try to do it that way. But still annoying. I would have done a lot of things differently had I known I was not going to have the autopilot for that trip. And over by the horizon there, about a mile away from my boat, you can see Steven Spielberg's 282-foot super yacht, Seven Seas, which was anchored for the entire time I was there in that same Anchorage, about a few weeks. Now, I'm not sure why my boat right there has this strange motion that looks like it's going sideways. I guess it's a combination of me trying to figure out how to use a stabilizer here in post-production, and maybe Glenn being close to my boat, moving one direction, I'm moving another. I don't know. Or maybe I'm just letting this other boat pass because I'm running out of sea room and I need to go the other way. Yeah, probably. Not sure why I don't have my head sail up yet at that point, but this I'm editing months into the future, and all I can guess is that I was just getting out of that area, and it was going to be until I turned to the heading would be on for most of the day that I was going to get the other sail up, and only that little bit of main was enough to move me to where I'd make my next move. But what I can tell is that I looked very frustrated. Yes. And there I have my little 40% working jib already up. I bought that handkerchief of a sail at the Marine Consignment Shop on Long Island, New York. Fun place to check out if you're in the area. That is a foresail for a 20-foot O'Day or something like that. I just picked the smallest hang-on sail they had to use as a working jib. I measured it and it's about 80 square feet. And I believe the square footage of 100% for my foresail would be a little over 200 square feet. So I think it's even smaller than 40%. And it worked great for that day. I did have enough wind to move comfortably. After that size jib, I have another one that's 100%, a bit baggy, and I haven't used much. And then I also have one that's 120%, and I got it at Bacon Sales, which is a great spot to find used sails. But I made a mistake to get it about, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 inches, a little too long of a sail, and it's kind of impossible to get a good stretch out of it. Also, I have a bit of an issue with the clutches not grabbing the halyards properly, but that's another issue I'll tell you more about later. So besides the MIA autotiller, it was a beautiful day sailing. Still in the relatively protected waters of the banks, sailing in between 10 and 20 feet of water on that first day. And on day 2, we got out of the Exuma banks through Farmer's Cut, making the 40-something mile hop to Georgetown, or to Elizabeth Harbor. along the relatively unprotected waters of the Exuma Sound. It's usually hard to tell the size of the waves on the video from the boat's point of view, at least. Though right there it kind of shows the sportiness that day by the motion of the boat, right? The waves are pretty close together, which in my little flat bottom boat, it kind of feels like a washing machine a little bit. Yeah, one wave crashed over the bow just before and got me pretty wet. Sailing. It's a bit of a casualty. The kitty litter. We're about a couple miles away. That's it. It's windy. Whoa, Pauline from the past. You don't say. The reporter from the field thingy is not doing so well there. Also, the wind noise is way too loud for that stuff to be usable. So anyway, another insight from that day, which I knew better, but after many years since I lost a dinghy in the ocean, I guess you forget the pain, but I guess the same rule to just like reefing. When you think you should reef, you do it. When you think you should put your dinghy up on deck, you should do it. And I should have not been dragging that dinghy along. You lose at least a knot, I think I was losing. Oh my goodness, that stuff just hanging out off the side of the boat is really driving me crazy. But yeah, it takes me 10 minutes to put the dinghy up on deck. It's really not a big deal at all. No casualties by towing it on the first day, except for losing a bit of speed. But on the second day, in addition to losing some speed, one of the wheels, the dinghy wheels I was looking forward to using, fell off. Not while I was in transit, but it was pretty bouncy, and I saw it when I arrived in Georgetown that night, but it somehow fell off overnight. Woke up, one of the wheels was no longer there. Such pretty waters. I love the Exumas. Arrived, all well, except for this is not conducive. It just came right off my hand, broke off my tiller. That is when things get even more interesting. That is my tiller. It broke in half as I was approaching the Anchorage. Would be settling in for the night. That's Oven Rock. For those who don't know, that piece of wood there that's broken in half is used to steer the boat. So, during preliminary analysis, I figured I'd drill a small hole inside that stubby part of the tiller that's still attached to the boat, then put some glue in there and stuff that spare aluminum bar, well, not spare, but it could be spared at that point, and put some clamps on, and that would be my temporary tiller. And that thing of beauty is what happened to the tiller. Somewhere in the Atlantic, I believe off the coast of North Carolina, the connection between the Autopilot and the tiller had some play that shouldn't be there, and I made that beautiful thing and made some holes that introduced rot to the tiller. Anyway, it broke. So I asked Glenn if he had a hole saw on his boat, not like that 4-inch one that I had for demonstration, but much smaller, like 3/4 of an inch, or forgot what we used, to drill part of the core of that tiny tiller And then he suggested that we use only a piece of the aluminum inside of it and get both pieces of the tiller reunited. And I like the idea because I still want to use that bar to make an extension for my throttle so I'm not scrunching down to accelerate when I'm underway. If you know Glenn, you know he's a man of faith. And you gotta have some extra faith here to hold on to the tiller with your foot there before, now his hand, put it in front of my working power tools. Yeah, so you can see we put the clamps around the tiller to try to make sure it wouldn't fall apart as we're sewing and doing all of that drilling. So if I ever want to become a bone surgeon, I guess I can put that on my resume, huh? Look at that nice work. So we drilled both parts, and I had some epoxy and other glues, but Glenn insisted we use this quick setting epoxy and it worked perfectly. Then we clamped those pieces of aluminum to the sides like splints, and voila, I had a functioning tiller again. So I could then hand steer from Bahamas to Georgetown because I still didn't have a functioning autopilot again. So I took my work of art apart and began working on these gears. That little one broke. So I tried to glue it together but didn't have much faith to use it on my way back. I actually didn't use an autopilot at all. Oh, Marbles the Meowriner, I miss you so much. Long story for another video. Now you see there's more room around, nothing to hit, and especially because I was hand steering the whole way, I just left the anchorage with my main up, well reefed. And on day 1 we had about 18 to 20 knots. Now on day 2 we're expecting to blow in the low teens, so I hanged on the big sail about 120%, I guess. I bought it used. Now we're going against wind and current, not wind against current, which would make for bigger waves, but not a lot of wind, you know, like in the low teens, but a ripping current through that cut against us. And I must say, my electric motor did amazing. For those of you who wonder, it is a 10 kilowatt electric motor, and I believe at that point, which is just about the most that I've ever had to ask of that motor, it was given about 6 kilowatts, so you know, not even 60% of its capacity. There, the sails luffing away because we're going straight into the wind on our nose and outside of the cut until we get to bear off and start looking more like a proper submarine. Oof, the dinghy looks even more desperate and lost from this angle. Well, that is the first and last time I tow that tender offshore. I mean, in settled weather, you can tow pretty much anything out there, but not in a day like this. Just in general, if you can, if you have room on your deck or somewhere to secure your tender up on deck or wherever you do it, do it. I'm not sure what I just said there on the radio, but I know I was being slightly annoyed and telling and asking Glenn to keep a bigger distance or to go in front of me. It was, yeah, I was a little grumpy, and not just, yes, it was the autopilot mainly, you know, it makes everything a little bit more challenging. even checking on Marbles, getting a drink, using a bathroom, just taking a little break, looking for the vice grips to tighten that scallopy head sail. I'll talk about it, but as I am there, I'm sitting on the high side. It just feels better that way. And I'm looking at the lee shore. And the compass. That's pretty much what I have for reference. The easiest way, I guess. And when Glenn was in front of me, I could actually follow his boat. But if he was behind me, I couldn't. And it was kind of hard to tell if I was kind of going toward him or not. Anyway, so the halyard. I bought some new material that is stronger, but it's stretched. So it became a little thinner, and it doesn't really fit in the clutches. A little thinner, the clutches don't quite grab it. So what I have been using temporarily are vice grips right after the clutch. I just put like some fabric in between, so I'm not completely damaging my halyards. So when I don't have the vice grips now readily available, as I didn't have it that day, then in the process of moving the halyard off of the winch to properly cleat it off, also so I can use the winch for the jib or genre sheet, it slides down a bit, and I wasn't able to get a good stretch on that head sail. I know I can feel you good sailors out there annoyed that my head sail is not tight like a good funk band should. And even though I had enough wind to move the boat, and even a little bit more to spare, having it tight is really good for a better performance, especially when the wind is forward of the beam.
Ground control to Major Tom. Ground control to Major Tom. Take your protein pills and put your helmet on. Ground control to Major Tom. Commencing countdown, engines on. Check ignition and may God's love be with you. This is ground control to Major Tom. You really made the grade, and the papers want to know whose shirt you wear. Now it's time to leave the capsule if you dare. This is Major Tom to ground control. I'm stepping through the door, and I'm floating in a most peculiar way. And the stars look very different today. For here am I sitting in a tin can, far above the world. Planet Earth is blue, and there's nothing I can do. I'm feeling very still, and I think my spaceship knows which way to go. Tell my wife I love her very much, and knows. Ground control to Major Tom, your circuit's dead, there's something wrong. Can you hear me, Major Tom? Can you hear me, Major Tom? Can you hear me, Major Tom? Can you hear? Am I floating on a tin can far above the moon? Planet Earth is blue and there's nothing I can do.